Hi everyone. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about fear foods. And this is a little bit similar to something I talked about recently, which was triggers. But I specifically wanted to talk about fear foods because for me it was such a huge thing, and what I did was I kind of put together this. Well, it was unconscious at the time, but a blacklist, which was essentially my whole list of fear foods that I had at the time. And I really kind of lived my life by that list because it essentially kind of set out all the foods that were I had kind of deemed to be off limits. Don't know why I kind of chose those particular ones, but and it wasn't like I kind of sat down and made a physical list. It was just something that I kind of accumulated over time, and so I kind of lived my life by that. It kind of dictated how, like, if I went to a restaurant, it would dictate what I could and couldn't eat. It dictated what mum would buy from the supermarket. It would dictate what I would go and buy from the sandwich shop at lunch. Everything, and it was really quite exhausting. I think particularly for mum as well, because she had to try and kind of keep up with what was actually on it. And again, it wasn't like I'd kind of written it down, put it on the fridge. But I would kind of often kind of foods would be added to it without me even knowing, and then suddenly they would become off limits. Again, no kind of particular reason, nothing kind of happened to cause me to add those things to that list, but it was just something subconsciously that was restricting what I could eat. And so this went on for a long time, and even kind of past the point that I was discharged from the doctors when I'd kind of reached a healthy weight, and I wasn't seeing all the kind of psychotherapists, psychologists at the hospital anymore. But I still very much felt that I was managing my eating disorder, which I've talked about a little bit about kind of in other videos. But and this blacklist was one of the things that was still there. It was still very much kind of part of my life. It was still kind of alive and kicking, even though I didn't really realize it. But even though I wasn't kind of in the system, as it were, anymore, I was still very much living my life by this list of kind of off limits food. And it wasn't really until a good friend of ours called Mary Franklin Smith, and we've done a video with her, so make sure you check that out once it's up. And we were having a conversation, and I mentioned something about my blacklist. This is probably a few years ago now. And she said something along the lines of, it was quite direct and quite blunt, and I love her for that. But she said something along the lines of, that's not real. And it seems like such an obvious thing to say, because of course it's not real. It's not kind of etched into stone. It was something that I had made up, essentially, but I had believed the kind of the story around it, that I was not allowed to eat anything off that list. And it wasn't really until that she kind of called me out on it that I even realised it. I'd never questioned it before because no one had challenged me on it. And so it was a bit kind of startling at the time, but it really got me thinking, and it kind of started to unravel a lot of the stories and rules that I had made up over the years, and that I was still very much being kind of controlled by. And this wasn't a kind of instant overnight kind of she said this thing and then the list vanished. It was more that I started to, I don't know, I kind of opened myself up to the possibility that actually I didn't need this list anymore, and that actually I could enjoy a process of rediscovering actually whether or not I liked any of these foods. Some of them, it turns out that I don't like them anyway, because it's like Marmite and gross stuff like that. But the other stuff, I kind of turned it into more of an enjoyable process, because I was able to think, oh wow, I haven't had this thing for 10 plus years. Actually, what if it's great? And there's an anecdote in our book about a cheese sandwich, which I'd highly recommend reading. But it's things like that I hadn't had for so long, and it didn't even cross my mind at that time to have them, because it was again kind of deep in my mind that I wasn't allowed to have them. So that kind of learned behavior almost meant that I just didn't go anywhere near them. It wasn't that I was kind of going into a shop and having to kind of force myself to avoid certain things. It was just I didn't even see them, because I had trained myself to not want them, to not see them. So actually it wasn't a kind of conscious process that I was going through at that time. But it was after that conversation with Mary that things started to change, and that's really where my kind of proper recovery, why I kind of see my second stage of recovery really started, because that called into question, as I said, all these other rules and stories that I'd been believing for so long. And it was quite overwhelming at times, because when you've believed those things for so long, and it becomes your comfort zone, it's very familiar, and anything outside of that can feel really scary. And at times it was. But it was kind of reminding myself that was okay, that actually that uncomfortable feeling that I had, it couldn't hurt me. And kind of just being okay with the fact that it was going to be a bit kind of up and down. Sometimes I'd find it really fun and interesting to rediscover all these things, and sometimes it would be totally overwhelming. And it was then that's kind of the way it went. And even now there'll be certain things that I went to a restaurant for my birthday actually quite recently, and my boyfriend wanted to order something off the menu that I can't remember what it was now, like pasties, or it sounds like it was posher than what it sounds like. We didn't go to Greg's for my birthday, but he wanted to order this starter to share, and my initial reaction was, oh no, I don't want that. But it wasn't because I didn't want it, it was because that kind of muscle memory had kicked in that, oh no, I couldn't have that because of my old rules. And so what I've become better at is noticing that, and actually noticing why I'm saying no to things, and whether it is because I don't like it, which is fine, you don't have to eat everything, or whether it's that kind of knee-jerk reaction based on the previous rules and stories that I'd kind of held in the past. And so actually it was really interesting when I'd noticed that, because because it hadn't kind of happened in a while, and I was like, oh okay, there's still one lurking in there. And it's not, I wasn't kind of judging myself for it. I wasn't suddenly thinking, oh my god, anorexia's back. I wasn't thinking, oh, I thought I'd got rid of all these. What's wrong with me? I should be okay with anything and everything now. But it was more just thinking, oh, that's interesting. And then once I noticed what was actually going on, we had that thing and I ate it and it was delicious. And so I think it's what I've found so helpful is just firstly kind of having that realization in the first place that I didn't have to believe everything I was thinking. And secondly, just kind of being gentle with myself throughout that process of relearning and rediscovering. Because as I say, there are ups and downs, but I would really kind of encourage you, if you're watching and you can kind of relate to anything I'm saying, is just kind of being open to the idea that actually it's possible to not have fear foods, and just kind of be open to the idea that things could shift for you. So I hope that's been kind of helpful or interesting. Leave a comment below or get in contact if you want to kind of share your reflections on that. But yeah, speak to you soon.